Who are the big winners? Look, my company buys Bitcoin at 35,000. I would have paid 70,000, Scott. If this had not happened, then Bitcoin would have gone 60 to 70 to 90 to 100. We'd be paying 100,000. So people buying Bitcoin in the 30s got Bitcoin at a discount. You got two types of people. You got the long-term people that said, but for the Chinese exodus, we would have had to overpay. And you got the short-term people that said, haha, you're so stupid. You bought it at 50,000 and now it's 35,000. Haha, you should have shorted it. Well, shorting is like shorting electricity. It's like, no, I don't think so. If you think this is a Rorschach test. If you understand that Bitcoin is digital property rights for 8 billion people going to change the earth, then you think this is just volatility and it's a buying opportunity and it's a windfall. And if you think Bitcoin is a random speculative gambling asset of no consequence with no underlying value, then you think, it's like you were stupid. You shouldn't have bought it. And obviously, the technologists that understand it, we think it's a decentralized, sound digital property network that can serve as the basis of the 21st century economy. This is a $1 trillion mistake for China because they had 60% of Bitcoin mining. It was worth 12 billion a year plus all the Bitcoin, and it was doubling every year, and it was going to $100 trillion. And they could have had trillions and trillions of dollars. And instead, they held a gun to the head of their holders. If I said to you, Scott, 15 years ago, if you owned half of Google and Google was worth $50 billion, and I said, you have to sell all your stock in Google, how much would you have lost?
I mean, billions and billions of dollars.
It's like a forced liquidation, right? It's a forced liquidation of the dominant digital property network on Earth. They forced themselves out of the business. So that's why it's a geopolitical mistake. It's a tragedy for the people in China that own Bitcoin. I feel awful for them. Like it's just a tragedy. Now they but for the Bitcoin miners in North America, it's a windfall.
Right.
Their revenues are going to double. Their costs are the same. Their margins have quadrupled or quintupled. Right? It's like in any business, right? If I went to Pepsi and I said, guess what? I'm going to outlaw Coca-Cola and obliterate all their factories worldwide. What do you think? Like, sounds like it's a good thing for Pepsi. That's kind of what happened here, right? North Americans were a bit behind. The big FUD in the market was, oh yeah, Bitcoin is dirty. Well, 75% of the power in China was coal. So China was the dirtiest miner of Bitcoin. The next FUD is China might take it over. That's not happening. The next FUD was they dominate mining. That's not happening. The next FUD was it's a secret to undermine the dollar by the Chinese. That's obviously not the case. So now that you're through the China FUD and you're through all the Bitcoin is China coin type ridiculous narrative. Now the next question is, well, is Bitcoin good for the world? Well, it's good for the rest of the world, right? It's good for the dollar. What you can see here is that if you're free floating currency, then you're going to see the US dollar float to 5 billion people's mobile devices, and Bitcoin is going to be the underlying protocol to synchronize all 5 billion devices. And if you don't synchronize on Bitcoin as a settlement network, you'll synchronize on Lightning as a transaction network, or you'll synchronize on another layer 2, a proprietary layer 2 controlled by Binance or Coinbase or Square or PayPal or Apple or Google or Facebook, that then in turn settles on the underlying Bitcoin settlement network. And so the architecture of the world is becoming clear. And Scott, you know, when I wrote the book, The Mobile Wave, what I said was, and I said, buy Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Google because they're the dominant digital networks in the Western world. China closed off China to Google and Facebook and Twitter and Amazon and the like through capital controls and information controls. And then they created their own version, Alibaba, WeChat, right? Alipay, right? So Weibo. So China created its own little world. And what you saw was the Westernet, which consists of Western Europe, the United States, the rest of the world, that became one ecosystem. China, with their billion people, became the other ecosystem. And then you saw the category champions in both ecosystem. But ultimately, you know, like, yeah, I would rather own Google than own the equivalent in China, especially because at least Google gives you right to property, which you can take to Sicily or Paris or London, and you can live in a free economy. Whereas if you've got all your wealth and your business trapped in China, it's a closed system. You have to stay within China. You don't have access to the rest of the world with it. You can't take your capital. And so ultimately, they close themselves off, which, you know, it works in the near term, but on the long term, are you going to bet against Google? You know, I'm not. You know, like, I don't think I want to do that, right? Like, so,
Yeah.
so, you know, that's what I think about that.